suspect the minnow of piracy and to fire upon the minnow in self-defense. The relevant article here is Article 106 of the United Nations Covenant on the Laws of the Sea, here referred to as UNCLOS. This article concerns mistaken seizures under suspicion of piracy. In these cases, the seizing ship is liable to the seized ship for any damages or losses as a result of the sinking, unless there were adequate grounds for the seizing ship to suspect that the sunken or seized ship was involved in piracy. Adequate grounds is not defined under UNCLOS or in any of its commentary, and it is decided on a case-by-case basis. In this case, there were adequate grounds for the intrepid to suspect that based on the information available about the minnow and the response of the minnow to radio contact, that the minnow was involved in piracy.
Now, Counsel, you say that this question has to be decided on a case-by-case basis, but surely there have been other cases on the basis of which we can begin to generalize about what this term adequate grounds might mean. Can we not state in at least somewhat generalized language what this term pertains to?
Well, adequate grounds would be suspecting them of piracy in the first place. So, in this case, they were suspected of piracy because there had been an earlier pirate attack that had been reported to the Intrepid that involved a ship that had the same description that matched the Minnow Jones. And
a reasonable suspicion.
Yes, a reasonable suspicion.
Sure.
So they had a reasonable suspicion, and then when they did approach the Minnow Jones, they had reason to fire in self-defense because they were being fired upon. This together gave them adequate grounds.
So a civilian ship firing off fireworks could possibly present adequate grounds?
Oh, sorry, Your Excellency. No, Your Excellency, not that fact alone. Firing off fireworks alone would not be enough evidence. In this case, it is adequate evidence because there was an earlier pirate attack that matched the description, and there was no radio contact made by the Minnow Jones before firing fireworks at the Intrepid.
Aren't there any precedents dealing with being fired upon that go just beyond noise, beyond oral stimuli?
Yes, Your Honor. In the case of, to draw a comparison, in the case of Nicaragua versus the United States, the International Court of Justice found that there was a right to self-defense in the face of an imminent or armed attack. And in this case, I will discuss why fireworks being fired at the ship constitutes an imminent and armed attack. Okay. So, as I said, the information about the available information about the minnow connected the minnow to an earlier pirate attack that evening. That pirate ship was described as a merchant ship headed in the same location that the minnow was found in, and flying a Pezos flag and a black flag.
What's the significance, Counsel, that it was flying a black flag? Exactly. No genuine pirate ship flies a black flag.
True.
It has to be human, which suggests that it's not, we cannot reasonably be determined to be pirate.
Yes, Your Honor. It wasn't that it was just a black flag, it was flying a Jolly Roger flag, the skull and crossbones, which is an international historical symbol of piracy that's recognized worldwide.
Pirates don't fly pirate flags.
Pirates have flown pirate flags for hundreds of years. In this case, true, there are no precedent for other ships in the Nicopolis Channel having flown pirate flags, but pirate flags have been associated with pirates and nothing else since I don't know when. Yes, for sources such as the source Life Under the Jolly Roger, Reflections on the Golden Age of Piracy cites the fact that Jolly Rogers have been used for
hundreds of years ago. The current pirates, I can't imagine, correct me if I'm mistaken, why would they want to disclose their status as pirates?
To strike fear into the heart of those that they're attacking, Your Excellency. By showing that they're pirates, it allows the people that they're pursuing or the people that they're attacking to know what their intent is from the start and strike fear into their hearts and to offer them the chance to surrender before any damage or harm comes to them.
But when the company had known what was going on in the channel, that they probably shouldn't have taken that kind of risk.
I agree. I think that by flying the pirate flag, the pirate fireworks was taking an unnecessary and negligent risk by flying a pirate flag in a channel that's so well known for pirate attacks. All right. So again, the right to self-defense is limited to using force in response to an armed attack or the immediate threat of an armed attack. This is supported by the International Rules of Engagement Handbooks and the International Court of Justice in Nicaragua versus the United States. This requires that fireworks be interpreted as an armed attack, and there are a couple different reasons for this. First of all, under Article 2B of the Convention for the Suppression of Unlawful Acts Against the Safety of Maritime Navigation, It is an unlawful offense to discharge explosives towards a ship in a way that is likely to result in damage, injury, or death.
Let me go back just a few seconds. Armed attack, that within the provision, the meaning of Article 51 of the UN Charter, has almost universally been interpreted to mean attack by one state upon another. Here we do not have one state attacking another, do we?
No, we do not have one state attacking another, but armed attack has also been extended to instances such as terrorist attacks on other countries, when the terrorists are not in fact a state. It still allows the attacked or the defending country to use self-defense to defend themselves, even though they aren't being attacked by another state. So for my second supporting source for fireworks as an armed attack, fireworks are being used as weapons all over the world even today. Most recently, in January 2014, the Ukraine has been involved in firework attacks being used by civilians who lack access to other weapons. In Toronto, there's been a recurrent use of fireworks being used as weapons since 2006, and the police state that the charge for anyone caught with firing fireworks, particularly if they hit someone with those fireworks, would be an assault with a weapon. In California, a man was arrested after aiming fireworks at someone in an attempt to hit them for assault with a deadly weapon. And in the United Kingdom, this is such a prevalent problem that they have a specific handbook titled Tackling the Use of Fireworks as Weapons. So they're being used as attacks more and more often around the world. They're still being used today, and they're used particularly when people lack access to other weapons, and because they're easy to obtain, they can cause serious bodily damage if they come into contact with whatever they're being aimed at.
That's more people to people, right?
In the cases that I have at hand, yes.
Counsel, you haven't said a word yet about the location of the sinking and what significance that might have. If we were to conclude that the sinking occurred within the territorial waters of bases, would that not be the end of the inquiry insofar as the sinking of the ship within its territorial waters by another state?
No, Your Excellency, the United Nations has stated that self-defense lacks no jurisdiction. It's not bound by jurisdiction. We're allowed to use force in self-defense.
So we would have to conclude there would have been an attack within the for self-defense to have been triggered.
Yes. We'd have to conclude that there's an armed attack, and that is why I'm stating that fireworks constitute an armed attack, because they count as an unlawful offense under the treaty that I mentioned, as well as they've been used around the world as weapons. So whether the lieutenant recognized the fireworks as being fireworks or some other form of attack doesn't matter. He feared for the safety of his crew, and he returned fire on those grounds. Directing fireworks at a person constitutes an assault with a deadly weapon, and directing fireworks at a ship, or explosives at a ship, as the treaty says, is an unlawful offense and an armed attack. For these reasons, Gopal's ship, the Intrepid, had adequate grounds to fire in self-defense upon the minnow, and to suspect them of piracy in the first place. Okay, so for my second argument, the lack of fault or wrongful intent by those aboard the Intrepid, contrasted with the contributory fault by those aboard the minnow, would limit or eliminate any claim for reparations. In international acts with damages, a state's obligation to compensate is not strict or absolute. Fault and intent are essential in determining the state's liability for reparations. In this case, there was a lack of fault or wrongful intent by those aboard the Intrepid. The International Court of Justice has stated that successful claims for liability typically involve deliberate attack or intent to harm by the party being pursued, or the party that is being pursued for liable for reparations.
Counsel, what about the possibility of at least a carrier fault? A ship that made no effort, as best I can tell, to contact and communicate with the base ship before firing?
They did. They made an attempt to make radio contact before they were fired upon. My opponents will make the argument that they should have taken other measures, such as visiting the ship beforehand. But when you're being fired upon, you have the right to use force to stop the attack. So, in absence of fault, wrongful intent, the international responsibility of the state does not arise. In order to infer wrongful intent on the part of the state, we must consider the objective and subjective data available about the ship and the situation. In this case, Gopal's and the Intrepid did not have wrongful intent. Gopal was trying to make the channel safer by implementing a security system patrol for any pirate ships attacking any merchant vessels. The Intrepid was patrolling for pirates when it received a description of a pirate ship that had just raided another ship. Unfortunately for the Minnow, they matched this description, and when they were approached, the Intrepid made contact first to inquire about their involvement. The Minnow failed to respond in any sort of way other than by firing fireworks at the Intrepid. The Intrepid feared for the safety of its crew and chose to fire back in order to defend itself. Despite the sinking, the entire crew of the Minnow was rescued. And especially relevant here is the fact that the lieutenant in this case, the commander of the ship at that time, is known for his smart tactics and for sinking pirate ships only when necessary and avoiding casualties. In this case, everyone was rescued from the Minnow. There were no casualties in this case. So it's clear that the lieutenant lacked any sort of wrongful intent in this case. He was merely firing to protect his crew upon suspicion of piracy. This wasn't some attempt to attack Pegasus or harm another ship for no reason. He was attempting to reduce piracy in the channel, and he was attempting to do so by contacting this ship. He defended his crew, and that provides adequate grounds under Article 106 of UNCLOS. Additionally, the contributory fault by those aboard the SS Minnow Jones would limit any claim for reparations. The International Court of Justice in Hungary versus Slovakia has said that contributory fault by the injured party limits any claim for reparations. You must take into account an injured party's willful or negligent acts or omissions, as well as a lack of due care that contribute to the injury. This lack of due care or willful or negligent acts would reduce any claim for reparations by under the theory of comparative fault. In this case, there was a significant lack of due care by the crew. First of all, as I've said, they were flying a pirate flag in a channel that's so heavily infested by pirates that in 1 year they had 150 people die, 500 people were injured, and there were 37 different pirate attacks just in 1 year. This is a huge problem, this channel, and the security system is attempting to address this. So by choosing to fly a pirate flag in an area that's such a huge pirate problem, this was a negligent